It is a casual little sketchbook session sort of week for me. I want to talk about getting creative in your sketchbook, creative exploration, not holding yourself to specific standards, and why I prefer to be loose and kind of free in my sketchbook and how it makes me a better artist overall. Hi, hey, hello. If you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping on by and sticking around in my little corner of the internet. If you feel like getting creative alongside me, I would love to hear about it in the comments down below or see it tagged on any of the socials that I have linked in the link tree or the description if you feel like sharing. Otherwise, the comments section is a safe space for all sorts of conversations, and I would love to chat with you. So let's get into the sketchbook session, the week, the vibes, the feelings, and everything that I got up to and all the spreads that I filled. The past 2 weeks have been really rough for me on a medical standpoint, and so this week for me was predominantly focused on battling perfectionism and disregarding my expectations for myself as an artist to try and alleviate some of the stress and the pressure that I've been kind of feeling and experiencing because of these kind of like physical issues that are now making the creation of art more difficult. So with the chronic fatigue syndrome, I have been having a really difficult time staying awake for more than a couple hours at a time and having to take frequent breaks to basically just cease existing for upwards of multiple hours between students during my workday. Kind of like those commercials for migraines where it's like, are migraines taking your life away from you? Try this drug now, and you might be able to gain some of your life back. That's how I feel right now. Honestly, I feel like I need to be the person laying in bed basically dying in a drug commercial to exist again. Honestly, I've not been feeling super good. And because of that, I have not had a lot of time to sit down and create for a substantial period of time. And that includes doing my daily warm-ups and then continuing to draw after doing those warm-ups. Because I've been so pressed for time with my actual job, my internship, and then needing to take these long breaks, it's been hard to feel like in the flow creatively speaking. Now, that's not a bad thing. I know that I'm going to be fine and I'm going to start feeling better in a couple of weeks. I really just need to rest my body and myself for a while and really not overwork myself the way that I have been the past couple of weeks. Well, past couple of months to lead up to this point where I'm basically just like shutting down physically for long periods of times and needing those breaks. However, there is still like that feeling as an artist when your work isn't how you expect it to be, where it's kind of like feeling like a failure or feeling like you're losing yourself creatively speaking. And I mean like nothing is arting the way I want it to art. My poses, my faces, everything just feels wrong right now, right? And so the immediate next step for that for me, because I do still want to create, I feel compelled to sit down and draw. I really want to, but it's not working in the actual moment, right? It's just not kind of happening the way I expect it to. The immediate next step for me is to combat these feelings of perfectionism and treat a sketchbook the way a sketchbook, in my opinion, should be treated, which is a place for free thought, creative thought, making messes, ugly sketches, and being an artistic failure without any personal pressure, right? If I'm going to permit myself to believe that I'm not an artist because I'm having a bad week, then I'm never going to succeed as an artist because I will always be so stuck in self-doubt that it basically crushes me to death and I spontaneously combust, right? Which isn't beneficial for anybody. It's not beneficial for you, for me. There is a healthy amount of self-critique to do, but equally so, we are our worst critics, and I generally find that to be true. We probably hate our art more than anybody else will ever hate our art, right? It is your perception of what your art should look like that makes you feel like your art isn't good or where it should be. And so combating that in the sketchbook and treating it like a playground for kind of free thought and just being childish and a little bit stupid this week was kind of a part of kind of decompressing the perfectionism ideals that I know are kind of like eating me alive inside, which the ideals feel so counterintuitive because my art is never perfect and I never claim my art is. So it's just this entire weird turnaround where I'm continually like beating myself down this past week or two, specifically this week, when honestly my art is simply just not happening this week and it's fine. I'm a bit stiff, I'm uncomfortable, I'm groggy, my brain fog is super severe, and I am literally exhausted to the point where I can't really do much of anything without it physically straining me. Like, the chronic pain is through the roof. I am out of it, right? And one, disabled artists really should take good care of themselves. I've talked about this before, how I need to figure out how to take care of myself appropriately so that I can continue to be an artist and not have it have long-lasting negative impacts on me and my health. However, equally so, I still want to be creative during these times where I feel strained, and I really just freeballed my entire sketchbook this week. I have filled more pages this week than I have, I think, in any given week since starting the sketchbook in, I believe, June or July of 2024. And that's because I'm sketching for the sake of pure, unadulterated enjoyment and not caring if it looks good. And I mean, like, if the sketch is ugly, I don't erase and fix it as much as possible. I really just say, wow, that was bad, and I continue to move on. And it's been a very liberating experience that I hope to carry into my following weeks when I start to feel a bit better. I foresee, based on my usual health trends, that I'm probably going to be out of it next week, and then basically completely back like second week of April feeling good, and then overwork myself to this point again and crash somewhere in the start of June. Sounds about right for me, right? But I'm really excited, and I actually had a really good week in my sketchbook despite most of it being garbage, honestly. For the sketch I'm coloring right now, this is going to take up probably the majority of the video visually speaking, and then there's going to be another part of the video based on another sketch, and then a real-time talking point where I am discussing like all of the pages I filled during this week, and then like kind of just give a quick run over mini sketchbook tour, especially because the sketchbook is almost over. So just a quick flip through, just explaining some of the silly things I got up to. But I wanted to talk about the perfectionism whilst there was a consistent video in the background because it wouldn't be as distracting as me constantly flipping through things. And I don't really have a lot to say about the incredibly ugly crayon cats I drew. Just that crayons are cool, okay? They're pretty cool. I hate to admit it, but they're kind of cool. But I really liked this sketch. I really probably should have never taken marker to it, but I've also been wanting to experiment with the way I approach marker a little bit more and kind of considering the skin undertones and doing that first and foremost, and then thinking about the overtones a bit more later. So I usually add the yellow tint because that's just generally the undertone I go for. I usually add that at the very end to the places where I feel like it'll accentuate the piece, but I wanted to see how I would approach and how I would feel about using the yellow as a bit more of a more yellow toned base skin color and building upon that and how I would feel about it. And frankly, I mean, I kind of like it. It was a pretty quick, careless sketch. I didn't put a lot of effort into rendering the hair. I'm not even sure the hair makes sense, to be honest. I really just let it happen. So does it turn out perfect? No, but I do think it was a beneficial creative experience to seeing a new way of rendering. But that will be more obvious as we go through in terms of that sketch. One thing that I have been doing to battle perfectionism more and more is to continually integrate new practices into my art and new goals, mini missions essentially. So I did a video of my personal New Year's goals and the things that I wanted to work on over the year. One of those was animals. So for March, I chose cats. I was going to make a video of me drawing cats, but then the world caught on fire mentally. So it didn't happen. But I did draw some cats. I did not end up doing super accurate sketches of cats like I had originally anticipated doing. However, I did start figuring out how I want cats to look, exploring them in my style a bit more, and I'm a bit closer to having a final idea of how I want them to look. So, I mean, I made improvements on that front, but this week was cat week. I did draw about a page and a half of cats, and that was a positive experience for me, I suppose, but maybe a little bit kind of stressful. And that was one step to battling these perfectionism ideas. You're never going to be perfect the first time you try and draw something. Now, I have tried to draw cats before, but I've never tried to draw them to look good. I've never really sat down and tried to think, what does a cat look like? How do I break down its structures and make a good looking cat? It's usually like I have a photo of a cat on my phone, one of my cats, and I just want to doodle them in my sketchbook. And it's a very inconsequential experience where I don't really think about if I care if the cat looks good, bad, any of those shenanigans. You just let it happen, and that's good enough for me most of the time. However, when it comes to these learning to draw animal goals that I have, I really do want to push myself to think more critically about the forms and the shapes that I'm looking at and approaching them from a critical perspective so that I can apply them to other experiences. So for me, like actually putting the cats in this week, the end of the month is basically when I'm trying to do these. It was very good for me to kind of reset the brain and enter like analytical mode and not like the world is on fire, I'm going to die, why does my art suck mode, which was very beneficial to me. Which is also why I practice the cats in crayons. It's a medium that I don't use. I'm very uncomfortable with it. And it's also very childish. Like, we associate crayons with our childhood, silly doodles, the stuff that your parents might put on the fridge. I don't know. My parents never put drawings on the fridge. I said parents. My mom never put drawings on the fridge. So, I don't know. But we associate it with those childlike times, after school programs, drawing in class, things like that. And so it also kind of separated me from feeling like my medium was important and valuable in a way where I would be anxious about maybe disgracing it. You know, there's no sacredness to a crayon to create amazing work. Even though crayons are a very valuable medium that I think are very undervalued and underhyped in the art community, it is hard to associate drawing with crayon when you're not an experienced crayon artist with great fine art. You know what I mean? And so it took a lot of those pressures off of me, kind of like psychologically, that I needed to do a good job, and it felt really good and freeing, and it was a soothing experience as well. And it felt good to be a kid again, to be honest. Like, I really got into these crayon doodles that I got up to, and honestly, it felt very good to just not care. And I think that that's something that I've been lacking in my art recently, is a lack of caring about like the end product. I really do need to think less about what I am trying to achieve and let go and just be in the moment a bit more. I feel like I have all of these ideas for how I want my art to look and the messaging I want it to convey. And because I'm really like dead set on these ideas, I've been kind of slipping mentally and not actually like being and engaging in my own artistic process, which feels weird to say, but I talk about a lot on my channel the way that most of the time I don't think when I'm creating art, and I very much enter this like sub-existent space in my head and I come out and the product's done, right? I just kind of, it happens to me. It's not something that's very intentional. And I've noticed in the past month, I've been really thinking about the end product of the piece and not just letting the art happen to me, not just letting myself go and enter my artistic realm. And I think it's been decreasing the looseness of my art, which is something that I really much liked before. Not necessarily like dynamicism, but I'm also really lacking dynamics in my art recently. But the kind of like loose free flow feeling, I feel very stiff and I feel very intentional when moving, and it's almost to my own detriment. Like I'm not just letting myself create. I'm like trying to achieve something specific. It's weird to articulate, but there really is a difference between making art and like trying to achieve an end goal for me. And maybe other people can do it way more effectively than me, but I found that it's really stifled my kind of like creativity and my excitement to create art in the last few weeks, month or so. And so I'm going to be working on doing more gesture drawings. My old sketchbook, the one before this one, had a bunch of gesture drawings just stuffed into the pages so that I would remember which sketchbook I made them during. And I think I need to go back to doing that as my loosen up exercise before creating art. I found that when I was doing gesture drawings instead of what I've been doing recently, which is just doodling for the care of it, the hell of it, I've been finding that I'm kind of just not quite as loose and dynamic with my posing as I used to be. And so I think I need to go back to gesture drawings being my primary? I'm just not talking today. My primary form of loosening up and kind of entering the artist mode for the day. And I'm hoping that that will kind of bring my art back to where I want it to be, especially because in my attempts at drawing people this week, my proportions have felt horrendously off and skewed and unnatural. And I'm not entirely sure where it's coming from, but I just feel like I can't draw people this week, which is the primary thing I draw. So it's been kind of like an ugh kind of feeling for me, right? Like it's an ick where I'm like, I don't know how to manage this kind of like roadblock mentally. So that's something I'm going to be doing to try and loosen up and feel a bit better and kind of reassess anatomy. I might just have to do some anatomy studies. I did a bone study a few weeks back on my channel, and it was very nice, and it definitely like helped me enter a headspace where I'm caring a bit more about the skeletal anatomy, which I'm really excited about. Additionally, I think that I'm going to be returning back to some of my old kind of sketchbook tactics for having a good time, which means a lot more highlighter art with pen over it. I miss my highlighters for my base sketches, I really do. And I really think I need to get back to that permanent but colorful medium that I can't erase, and using that to do kind of my studies and feeling a little bit more fluid. I think I need to go back to my plant zombie people for a little bit and just kind of exist in a realm that is very natural. It's like second nature to me. Like this is the art sphere. This is the type of art that is just, it's like it's who I am. It's like the art that I just pop out, and it's like it just happens. I don't know how to articulate it, but it feels so right. And I think I need to go back to that for a minute and really just like calm down and decompress. I don't even know how I ended up so like wired out and stressed out about my art, but it just kind of happened, and now I'm feeling like weird about myself, right? And that's another thing about perfectionism that really needs to just like not be living in my head rent free. Is like, you're never going to be the perfect artist no matter how hard you try. And so telling yourself that your work isn't good enough is never going to get you anywhere. If you're constantly telling yourself all of the horrible things about your art, you're constantly going to feel like you're not making any progress. So instead of looking at these things like the anatomy feeling weird and saying I'm a failure, I need to also remember the things that I do value in my art, even during these bad weeks where I'm really struggling to be creative. I need to look at the positive as well and perceive my shortcomings as a point for future improvement, not as a like moral or personal failure upon me as an individual. Because so long as we see ourselves as failures for not being where we want to be in that moment, we're going to perpetually crush our own artistic voice and our kind of like desire to be creative, which is something that then will make art block worse, or kind of like just put you in a negative headspace when trying to create. It's weird to say that you need to be like all positive and happy, but if you don't put a positive spin on it and you're constantly degrading yourself, how are you supposed to want to improve, right? And that's something I always have to deal with really delicately, because I am able to get into those cyclical thinking patterns of just like, everything sucks, you're awful, quit. Like, it's really easy for me to enter those mindsets, and so I need to be like, but I really liked this one sketch in the sea of bad sketches, or I really like the way I colored this, I like the way I drew this eye, things like that. Additionally, I think we need to be real with ourselves as creatives that probably for the most part, we're always going to make more bad art than we're going to make good art. You know what I mean? I think that what we see on the internet and we see in art books, while I'm a huge avid art book collector, I love them. I own way too many. I really need to do an updated art book collection video one of these days. They're perfectly curated for us to see the best, or to see where they improved from to their current best, right? And I think that we need to remember that we, as in me, I'm telling myself this and then also putting it in a space for other people to remember and think about. So long as we exist in a sphere where things are being constantly curated to this perfect point, we're probably never going to actually realize just how much bad art artists we love make before creating the pieces or even the sketches that we really love to see and that they post on social media, right? If I posted every single sketch I made as soon as I made it, my feed would be absolute hell. It would be a nightmare. But I reserve kind of showing all of the art in my sketchbook for sketchbook tours, because it just doesn't make sense to bombard people with that much art, and especially art that people probably don't care about looking at outside of YouTube videos where they are poised with a discussion about why making bad art is important, why you should be okay with creating bad art, why it shouldn't be perceived as a failure, why it's a good thing for you to be able to recognize shortcomings artistically. All of these things, like, you don't want to look at it in a silent vacuum and just be like, wow, this isn't really that good, they usually do better. No, you want the commentary around it to kind of contextualize the information, probably. And because we live in that type of internet and that type of space, it's easy to feel like when we're not doing super good, that we're somehow worse than other artists who aren't sharing the worst of their worst, or every single sketch that they ever create, right? And that's something I need to remind myself of and not stress myself out about, and kind of save for me to, appreciate, remember, and keep in my back pocket to not hold it above my own head, right? Just to be a little bit more concise about, like, perfectionism and how it dampens your creativity, not just from a, like, personal standpoint, but, like, a general standpoint from, like, anecdotes I've seen from other artists. Obviously, I'm not talking about scientific studies. I could not be bothered to do that right now. I am literally dying. I can't handle it. But talking about, like, how I've heard other artists describe perfectionism and how it's impacted their art and had a negative impact on their mental health, and why I feel like it's very important to continue talking about why perfectionism is bad, not just, like, how it's impacted me, is when we stifle our creativity and our creative voice because we don't believe that we are capable of creating something to the standard that we believe in, we are then also stifling the ability to improve and then see ourselves at that point that we desire to be at. Additionally, when we tell ourselves, I can't do that, I don't have the creative skills to do it, I can't do it perfectly, I can't do it to the standard that I believe I should be able to, then we are also denying other people whom we would share our work with the ability to then think about it and kind of be introduced to this new perspective. art is a way of communicating, and it is one of the most effective ways of communicating because it does not require words to actually do its job a lot of the time. We don't need words in comics to be able to convey and take us through an entire narrative. That goes for comics, graphic novels, all kind of visual storytelling methods. We can watch silent animations and understand everything that's happening without them having words to actually explain it to us verbally. These things are capable of transcending language barriers and communicating and articulating opinions and perspectives to other people. Art is one of the major ways that globalization happens and kind of allows us to feel interconnected as a planet despite various differences in backgrounds, ethics, moralities, religions, histories, traditional values, cultures, all of these things, because we are able to find a common place in certain art pieces. Now, perhaps the art that I make and I engage in might not be necessarily for people of the majority of religions or specific religions. I'm not sure. Things like that, or perhaps the art that I enjoy isn't for particular cultures. However, there is art capable of transcending all of it and unifying us on a mass standpoint. And while everybody's always going to have differing opinions, we are always able to have opinions about a single art piece. Even if we don't agree with each other, we are formulating an opinion and we are all thinking about the same thing or the same theme when we look at it, and it's bringing us together from like a more philosophical or psychological standpoint of assessing and critically thinking about what a narrative is trying to tell us, right? And sometimes you are the best person to convey that information. Even if you don't feel like you have the skills to do it, you might be the perfect person for someone else to understand a topic or an illustration or an image that you have. And no matter the quality of your work, the way you portray it might be what somebody needs to be inspired or start thinking about something new, right? That's why I always kind of discuss, and I'm a huge advocate for disability art and advocacy art, because I think that the best way to communicate our needs and our hates and our issues and our desires is to create art about it and make people feel for us and empathize with us. I think that that's beautifully done through documentaries, through standalone illustrations, animations, comics. Sometimes I think that the best way for us to communicate is simply to create something, regardless of how well it actually is executed and visually conveys the information to an individual. Sometimes we need to make light of negative situations just so that people are willing to digest and consume the information that we believe is most important. And if we allow perfectionism to stop us from getting that out there, how are we to ever make progress or even feel like we've done the thing we need to do to feel fulfilled and full and satisfied and accomplished? One particular instance of me thinking that making light of a situation is incredibly important is the documentary Patrice came out in 2024, and it is very near and dear to my heart because it is about a disabled couple whom are facing the challenges that many disabled Americans are facing, which is that you can't get married. Basically, you can't get married, and especially you can't get married if you're both disabled. You will lose your Social Security benefits, and you will probably lose access to your health care, which basically just ruins your life or completely eradicates your ability to live in America as a disabled adult. Now, Patrice is more of a rom-com because it is supposed to have the loving undertone that this disabled couple is going to love each other no matter what the government says, and while they can't be married and they can't live together without basically not being able to survive and afford to survive, they still are going to love each other and persevere regardless. And so making it a rom-com makes the story and the hardship of many disabled Americans perhaps a little bit lighter than we should want it to be. However, it makes the information palatable that we have a major issue in our country where people can't even love each other. Even a heterosexual couple can't love each other in the current system that we have. And as a disabled person myself, it's incredibly important to me that I see this changed and I advocate for it, because frankly, even if I'm capable of working more than my peers in my community, I still think we all deserve to be able to live with the people that we love without being denied health care, right? Like, I feel like that's like the lowest bar. It's like underground right now, guys. Sub-zero, okay? Where is it? The bar? Negative. Who knows where it went? Like, it's so absurd, right? And so, for me, conveying this information and encouraging other people to push themselves regardless of what perfectionism says, to create the art they want to make and tell the stories they want to tell, is imperative for us to be fulfilled as artists, for us to continue our existence as like a communicating society. And frankly, we're kind of one of the only species that are capable of like truly telling stories, if not the only species. You know, I don't know how dogs communicate. We're probably the only species capable of truly just creating stories and passing them on to other people for these purposes of creating community and nothing more, right? And if we deny ourselves the ability to tell the stories we want and do what we want artistically, we're also denying ourselves something kind of innate to our existence as a communicating species, you know? If you want to get weird and sciencey about it, we are almost obligated to tell stories because it's what kind of stands as a unique component of our speciation, right? And if we let perfectionism get in the way, we're going to kind of lose a little bit of what makes us special, you know? And I think that there are a lot more people out there who are going to love your art and relate to it regardless of how you feel about it, which is why I continue to push myself to post videos even when I don't feel like the art I'm making is good, because at the end of the day, this is simply an aspect of being an artist. And if I deny myself and other people the ability to have these experiences and have these artistic ruts, and I deny myself the ability to share my art even when it's not something that I am completely proud of, I'm denying myself an aspect of my authentic artistic creation, which goes against what I believe in doing on the internet as well. I think that being real as artists is important, especially in the wake of things like artificial image generation, because myself as an artist is my art, right? I have something that image generation will never be capable of having, which is a personality, a cat. Thank you, Fizzgig. That was very kind of you. You did not give me a heart attack and send me into panic. A personality, a story, a lived experience, a physical entity body capable of existing freely from the confines of other people's interpretations of me. I have a lot of things artificial image generation will never be capable of having, and all of that influences my art. My art is an extension of me, just like your art is an extension of you, regardless of the quality. And because of that, being real about every experience I have artistically also continues to bolster and build credibility for myself as a living, breathing artist whom is superior to artificial image generation in every way because I'm real. Yeah. But, right, and it feels good after I've done it. After I've shared the things that I was embarrassed about in the moment, I feel fulfilled and happy. You know, it's like after this happens, I'm satisfied again. You know, it's like the anxiety is pre-existing, and once I let go of it, I feel good, right? Like it feels good to like share your weird art on the internet that you're not super proud of and be like, it's all here. You know, it's freeing, you know, it really just kind of breaks down expectations. And the more you do it, the more you remember that, like, you don't have to be perfect because people have seen way worse from you probably. Like, you can scroll all the way back to like 2018 November on my Instagram, and oh my god, is it awful? Like, you can see my first ever post on Instagram. Like, trust me, I need to remember the art that I'm making now, no matter how funky it is not as bad as anything I posted in 2018, 2019, and I should not be stressing this hard about it, right? So, now that that's out of the way, being perfect sucks. The only thing that being perfect does is hinder your ability to continue to pursue better and to pursue more. Without perfect, you can continue to grow and progress. Once you become perfect, there's no progression, and you cease to kind of have something to work for and care about and dedicate yourself to. So, be imperfect and share your imperfect art, and I love to see it, and I'm going to continue sharing it. So let's move on to the next topic. Artistically, I have had weeks start worse than this. These were my warm-ups for 321, and by warm-ups I mean I really wanted to draw something in this pose, realized it was ugly, and then had a crisis about it, and so that's how that went. As for the continued work, I was just not feeling my pen. I felt very shaky this week. Things were just not going well. This was actually last week, but I liked it, so I wanted it in here. Bad pen sketch. Don't know what to do about that one. Frankly, this might technically be this week, but I don't even remember anything really in terms of when I made it and what it's for and when it's for. I have not been able to get my facial proportions right this week. I do not know what's wrong with me. Faces either feel too long, or like noses feel too off, not in the right place, eyes too far apart, too big, too small. I just don't know what is going on with me. I can like see, technically speaking, like some of these faces aren't that bad. Like if this was someone else's style, I'd think they're great, but for me, it's just not jiving. Smudged the graphite like hell on that one. I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm just like, it's not happening, and I'm not entirely sure what is going wrong. I'm not sure if the faces are super lopsided and that's bothering me. I can't tell. I know that I am feeling a change underfoot artistically on how I want to draw eyes. I don't know if I want them bigger, more simplified, or if I want to go back to Arrtx's usual eye shape. Let's see if I can find something like that in here somewhere. Yeah. Arrtx has a very kind of like chilled out eye shape. But when I go back in my sketchbook, it's like pages and sketches like this that I'm like, this is what I miss making. And I'm not entirely sure how to go back to these sketches. And I think it's what I need. Like, I almost feel like I'm slipping away from what I want in my art right now. And, like, I'm not sure how to bring it back, you know? Like, it's just not jiving. But I really miss being able to do sketchbook spreads like... Can we come back to it? Where did it go? I miss sketchbook spreads like this, too, where I just fill it with my OC. I did that recently, and it felt great. I'm really good at just losing sketchbook pages because this thing is so like, ugh. But I really want to go back to sketchbook spreads where even when there is like a really lopsided, goofy sketch, right? Like this one is super silly looking. It feels cohesive and right, and I miss this, and I'm not entirely sure what is happening with me at the moment. I know I'll come back to it and I'll feel good again soon, but I've just been feeling very off, and I've been trying to discover it. This is a little scrapbooky page. I try to do these when I'm feeling super like off and not in the headspace. I have a bunch of like silly scrapbook kit stuff that I just paste in here, and you can see that I do it every like couple of months maybe. I'm just totally spoiling the sketchbook tour, aren't I? Like, it's coming up soon. I'm almost done with this guy. Why can I never find what I want when I want it? This one was super fun because I was testing to see if clear sticky note or tissue paper would work better for a ghost texture. but things like this just happen every once in a while. Sometimes I draw on them, but usually I'm reminding myself of the good advice that I know I should be taking into account when I'm not feeling good. Still can't draw cats? Keep trying. Honey, I am still trying. Past me, I am still trying. We are not getting anywhere. Crayons. God, I love crayons. Something about crayons have just been feeling so good this week. This is like my favorite sketch I've done in a minute because I've just haven't been in the headspace. And so this turning out right and feeling right, at least for it being crayon, felt great. The goofy cats, as promised, I drew horrible looking cats and it felt amazing. I don't have words to articulate just how fun it was to draw lopsided, goofy meme cats. I did try figuring out how I want to stylize cats. Like I said, I do really want to figure out how to draw cats in my style. So I went through the process of trying to draw my cats, some of my cats, and like figuring out, does the style work? This is Hyde. This is Jekyll. So Jekyll and Hyde, best boys. I accidentally drew a lemur. It's definitely not a cat, so I decided it's a lemur. Pumpkin is not my cat, but he lives with me. Iris is my brother's cat. Cruz and Fizzgig. Cruz and Fizzgig are the same cat, but one is just longer. Fizzgig's my asthma baby. She's the cat that like totally crashed into my desk earlier. But drawing meme cats in crayons was somehow one of the most liberating things I've ever fucking done. Like, it felt amazing, okay? I feel free. And I actually really liked this pencil sketch for how I've been feeling recently, and I'm getting there, right? I'm feeling a bit better. So, then I was talking about how, like, the cats look like goblins, so of course I had to draw Zero, my alien demon cat child, whom I'm pretty sure is just here to learn how humans work. Iris was being a goof, so I drew her again. Then this is a slightly more realistic graphite portrait of Zero. The belly chub is accurate. He's not obese. Like, it's really hard to describe Z. He's not obese. Like, this is all skin. It's not fat. It's just, like, primordial pouch 2.0. Wild. I don't know what's up with him. This is how this sketch turned out. I'm not in love with it. I really am not. But for how I've been feeling, I'm not against it. Now, I have been trying to alter my sketching process a little bit and figuring out a balance where I can care a little bit more about the silhouette of my art, like the shape that it makes, and less about the details when I'm initiating the sketch. And in doing that, I have been trying to figure out like the hair shape that I want and really just caring about the basic lines in those initial moments. I really do like the body on this pen sketch. I want to get back into this and I want my bodies to feel a little bit more natural, and I want to do a lot more nudity. Again, I miss my plant zombies so much, but I was having a horrible time with side profiles this week. I don't know why I kept pushing the chin out further than I wanted it to, or receding it more than I wanted to for the sketch I was trying to do. This was actually the last sketch on this page, so that's when I was like, that's about where I want the chin for the sketch I was working on. I think I blew something up on this page trying to render this one, then I decided I didn't want to render it. So, sketched some hands, sketched some eyes, you know, jiving, some stickers. It felt good, right? I don't know. It felt right in the moment. It's definitely kind of like goofy and trashy and not super like creative like the other like pages I do like this usually. But it was what was right in the moment, and I know that this was like what I needed at that time, which is weird, but it's what I needed, right? I don't like the sketch, and I don't know why. There's something about it that's not speaking to me. I have checked like 10 times. The pinky should be on this side of the hand, so it's not that. If I had to like immediately come up with something, what it would be is I need to like tilt the head down more, right? Do I have a pencil? That's blue. Yes. I need to like tilt the head down more. Like make the neck shorter. And like lower the eyes. Like, yes, still look super surprised, but you're looking down, and like with the angle we're currently at, I think we need to be a little bit more, like, we're kind of like above eye level. Like, we're probably looking at her forehead. So we should see a little bit more lid. Maybe a bit more of the top of the nose will make me feel better about it. If I was working digitally, this would be like easy, but I'm not. So I'm probably not even going to ever render this. So it really doesn't matter. Like, thinking through and trying to like figure out what's not jiving with me is still a valuable part of the creative process for me. And so I usually try to keep all of my like not good sketches that I don't like, or things that just aren't quite what I want, and not cover them up. And because we're looking for the top, I want some of that lower lid, like the lower lash line. I like these eyes now. Is this what I need? Does everybody need to look droopy and tired? Is this what I've been needing? Wait. I might be having a revelation, guys. Okay, give me a minute. Everybody needs to look like they have the same fatigue thing I have. Like, you're all just completely so and utterly sleep deprived that you don't even want to exist anymore. Is this what I need? Am I having a moment? I might be having a moment. I like that. I like that. I'm gonna work with this. This might help. But I do really like the she's supposed to be cross-eyed because there's a little like glow bunny right here. What is a glow bunny? I don't know. Looks like that, I guess. But like they like radiate light, so like it's all like dark around them. They're just all like shoo 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 ba-doo ba-doo. Sorry, the small brain just like activated where I like stop thinking and I start making stupid sound effects that don't mean anything. This is why only my stepbrother can like play video games with me for a prolonged period of time. Need to stop before I like say something stupid. Did I just punch you? I might have smacked you. Sorry about that. Immediately went back into no-go zone, like I was not driving. These thumbnails are good. They're loose, they're expressive, they're what I'm trying to get back to. She might as well be the chick, the mom from Ponyo, okay? She should be a redhead, okay? I hate this. Doesn't exist. No bueno. And then starting to overlay my sketches over my sketches, I started to have a little bit of fun and feeling a little bit better. Do I like anything particularly? Not really. Is anything speaking to me? Not really. But do I feel like I'm seeing a like mental improvement? Yeah. Then it immediately goes downhill. What? I tried to do gesture drawings, and I just like could not get this person's body type down. I was having a horrible time trying to figure it out. 30-second, 1 minute, 5 minute. The thumbnail wasn't jiving. Does the sketch feel a little bit better, a little bit more in my lane? Yeah. Do I like it? No. Do I like the original sketch I was trying to emulate better? Yes. I did this sketch before in my character design, like outfit designing video, and I wanted to try and do something funky and fun with the outfit and just kind of sketch it again to see if that helped loosen me up, and it did not. It's stiffer now and whiter, a lot whiter. I think she's whiter overall though in this sketch, so it's not like bad. The original is still better, so I know I'm not quite like in my groove yet, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I hate this. This is awful. This is a no-go. Die. Light it on fire. Do not know what's wrong with me this week, but this is what I was like, I just need to do gesture drawings. Like, this is not happening. This one, a little bit better, a little bit cuter. Do her arms, like, not exist currently? Yeah. It's just kind of like how things have been. Where did my purple pencil go? There it is. Like, they're there. Like, you can kind of, like, see where they're tracking. Like, her hand's probably about here-ish. Yeah, her hand's about there. Her other hand's, like, there-ish. But the thing is I'm thinking about trying to do, like, a fully paint pen sketch. I also did this while working. So I was, like, tutoring chemistry and, like, just doodling this whilst they were, like, working on writing down the problems. like when I wasn't needed. So is it like what I need? No. Is it still not what I'm like interested in? No. Just gonna put that straight through the eyes. But it's maybe getting somewhere. I think this is the last thing, right? This is... Nope, it's not. I apparently also did this after work today. Didn't even remember doing it. I wanted to return to some of my sketches for the environments for my comic. And I wanted to think about the kind of parasitic containment facility and how they would be like preserving humans. So regardless of if the mushroom people went to war with humans and like conquered and eradicated us as a race, or if it was a parasite, this is actually the hand, or if it was a parasite and only the humans that converted to the mushroom type survived, I figured the mushrooms people, the ones who did survive and win or whatever the scenario is, I haven't figured it out yet, regardless of which option it is, I figured they would preserve humans of old to study the DNA, like we do with mammoths and things like from the Ice Age. So this is just like a little like classic alien sci-fi containment tube, just kind of thinking about it a little bit. And this is supposed to be like, this is like an amber. Boink. There you go. Labeled. Now I know what I'm talking about. So yeah. As I was saying about the sketchbook being almost done, I always tape this down, like, so my pocket is, like, a little bit less vulnerable. This thing is, like, wild back there. But, yeah, there's no back to that page. I'm, like... And I did a lot this week compared to what I usually do. I really don't usually create this much in a week in my sketchbook. I'm usually more on separate pieces of paper doodling. So this might be done in a week or two. So I foresee a sketchbook tour and a new sketchbook decoration on the very soon horizon. And I'm kind of nervous. Like, I'm kind of nervous to see what I'll do with my new sketchbook and if I'll be out of this slump by now then. Or if I'll be in a situation where, like, my first pages are just, like, bleh. I actually like these first pages. So I'm really hoping that I'm feeling a little bit more myself then, and I can create like sketches like this and feel kind of in my groove, you know, things like that. So I'm optimistic, but not 100% certain where I'm gonna be mentally when I finish the sketchbook, but it is pretty thick. Definitely a lot thicker than it was. The entire name has like worn off the spine, but I'm excited to say goodbye and hello. So, I mean, I'm hoping that this, like, rut ends soon. But regardless, it's almost here. And so that's what I've worked on this week. Let's get back to the other sketch, the pen sketch that I did show just now, and finishing up and wrapping up the, like, thoughts and comments for this video and all of that. Congratulations on surviving my long-winded real-time ramble where I just forget that the concept of time exists as per usual, and talk way too much. So as for this sketch, I really was, when I said feeling a little bit more good with my art, I was starting to loosen up and feeling a little bit better. I also mentioned that it kind of goes downhill in the sketchbook pages after this for feeling better and kind of like I'm actually like kind of feeling myself again. One thing I have noticed is that I haven't been doing my hand exercises, so I have hand therapy balls that you're supposed to like squeeze to increase your muscular strength, and I do try to utilize those multiple times a day, and I just haven't been doing that the past week or two, and so that's likely to account for a lot of the stiffness and hand pain that I've been feeling and the difficulty being loose with my art. Because I have also talked about a couple of times how I can't draw the way you're kind of supposed to with your full shoulder because of my bad right shoulder and my severe muscle pain in that region. So I do do a lot of the movements for art in my wrist with my hands and simply do what I can to preserve my kind of strength and not carpal tunnel myself to hell, because I have like shoulder limitations. And so that is also probably a contributor to why I haven't been feeling as loose and feeling as like creative when I'm actually working. And I really need to just get back to my hand exercises. I do believe that every artist who like really does art regularly should have a hand exercise, shoulder exercise, and wrist exercise routine to maintain their like physical well-being. Carpal tunnel is no joke, and artists are way more vulnerable to getting it and way more at risk for a whole lot of different wrist, hand, and kind of like arm region pain, because that's just what we put all of our, that's like our that's our thing, that's our primary bodily tool, right? And so I really do encourage artists to take care of themselves and put some time into creating a routine that works for them and taking care of their body. It's really important that we value ourselves as not just our art and what kind of comes of it, like to take care of ourselves, right? And I know that I'm not as good at taking that advice as I should be, but this is me holding myself accountable. I'm going to find my exercise like squeezy thingies and not fall off the wagon again, right? And I'm going to work on taking better care of myself, because this has just been like stressful and not pleasant. And I know it's not completely preventable while working a full-time job, but additionally, it is something that I can work better to manage and lessen the likelihood of it happening again. And I encourage all of you to think critically and take care of yourselves. Please don't let art become something where it is painful or difficult for you to do. Remember to take breaks. For some people, when they enter an experience like this, quitting art for a little bit, just going cold turkey for 2 weeks is what they need. Do that if you have to. Your value as an artist and your worth to the world and to yourself should not be based on the quantity that you produce. It should be based on you caring about your work and the effort you put into it. Even if you don't perceive the quality of your work as being quality enough, it's more important than the quantity. You are not your output, right? So please take care of yourself if that's what you need to do, and don't necessarily take all the advice I give. If there's something that you think will help you, do it, absolutely. But everybody's different, and this is coming from somebody who has a chronic illness and has had it their whole life and has been managing it. What you need might not be what I need, but please take care of yourself. You deserve it, and your art deserves it, and the people who love your art deserve it, right? So with all of this being said, I think it's about time that I stop yapping, wrap up my thoughts, and say thank you so much for watching all the way through to the end of this video. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike, subscribe if you would like to see more of my work, my sketchbook tour of the sketchbook, the following sketchbook decoration that might not be a cover, it might be the inside, depends on which sketchbook I choose. I was planning on Moleskine, maybe not. I feel like working in a bigger sketchbook maybe. Ooh, the drama. I'm terrified. I never draw big, right? But it'll allow me to do better like character turnaround, so I'm thinking about a bigger sketchbook. We'll see if I do it. So stick around. Share my video if you think there's an artist in your life who needs to hear to not overwork themselves to hell and to do wrist exercises. And with all of this being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are. And with all of that being said, bye-bye.